Hello, and welcome to the tutorial on how to use Easybib. This is more of a refresher because I understand you've used Easybib a lot in your other classes, but I just wanted to walk you through how to use it again so there's no confusion going into your research project on the 1940s. So what you're going to do is you're going to first go to easybib.com, www.easybib.com, and it should bring you to the screen that you see here. To get into Easybib, you click on Login in the upper right-hand corner. And then to log in, what you actually are going to do, you're not entering a username or a password, so don't try that. You're actually going to click the red button that says sign in with Google. Now, when you're at school and you're on the Chromebook, it will actually automatically log you in. But if you're at home, you need to go to Google first and you need to enter your SAU information in and then go to easybib.com because otherwise you won't be able to get in because this is a service that we pay for. Okay, so this will bring you to the screen. Some of you may have a list of other projects that you've done in the past, or it may be blank. I have other projects that I've used for examples, and that's what you're looking at. But the first step of what you're going to do the first time you log in for this project, you're going to create a new project. You simply click on the new project button, call it the 1940s research project, and then please put the name of what your event is. So for instance, if you decided to do the Berlin blockade, please type that in so that when I'm grading it, I know whose Easybib I'm looking at once you share it with me. And then you hit the create button and you'll notice that it's created it down below. So the second time you log in, you're not going to create a new project. You only do this the first time. You're actually going to click on the word bibliography, and that's going to be the screen that you work from for me in Easybib. MLA should be cited, and that's the format that we cite in. Now remember, you have two steps to research that often students get confused with. You do not just, I often hear, well, Ms. Barksdale, I completed a bibliography. What do you mean by internal citations? That other video shows you how to do internal citations. That's the bridge that you're building for me to go to your bibliography. So when I look at your bibliography, I know what notes came from what source. That's why you need to make sure you do both. Otherwise, you haven't completed MLA formatting correctly, which is a big part of your Comp 2 grade. All right, so in order to do, you're going to use website, book, maybe journal, and you're going to use encyclopedia, I would assume, as your 4 areas. So to enter a website, you simply copy and paste the website in as so. I have a website ready to go that I went to earlier, and you copy and paste the URL. And what's nice is down below, you're going to notice that Easybib actually will give you a list of everything they can provide. Here's what, and then they'll tell you what they still need from you. And then there's a nice little thing here that tells you whether or not the information is credible. If the site says not sure, never evaluated, not credible, you need to have a conversation then as to why they think that and ask yourself, is this a site you should actually be using? Because if you can't answer that question, more times than not, you probably shouldn't be using it. And if you use any unreliable sources, I will not count those towards your final grade. So keep that in consideration. All right, but it's saying that my site is credible, so I'm going to continue to what is the final step. And what it's looking for is more information. Now, I know that the site does not have an author, so I'm going to leave that blank. You're going to notice when it asks for the website title, you would actually put what is all the way to the .org, .edu, or .com. You're not going to put the full URL here, just the website title. So if I was citing Easybib, I would put easybib.com. If it was CNN, I would put cnn.com, and then I wouldn't put the rest of the URL. The publisher is Independence Hall Association. And then where you will put the full URL is where it asks for it. And the most important thing in your Easybib, yours will probably say display URL no. Please change that to yes, because this way I can access it and determine if your site is legitimate or not. If you do not display the URL, then I will not count it as a source because I cannot go and check it. And then the year of publication, which is usually found at the very bottom of a page, and I'll show you on the Easybib page. Usually you'll find your copyright at the very, very bottom, and that's also where you normally find your publisher. It's usually a very small print, and it may have a range of dates. You would choose the date that's closest to us, and then the publisher of Easybib is actually Imagine Easy Solutions. So that's kind of the idea, all right? And which makes me realize maybe I should zoom in a little bit, which I'm going to do. So all of that information filled in, my citation's done, date accessed, it should be the day that you accessed it, and then create citation. I'm actually going to give you a trick of the book. The minute you decide a source is going to be used for notes, I would automatically go into Easybib and cite it. You're going to save yourself a ton of trouble. All right, so that's a website. In order to do a book, you click on the book tab. I'm going to show you an example because I don't have a book title, but most of the books you'll access will be from your Gale ebooks, and they are still cited as a book, but they're not in print. So you need to select the third tab over called Online Database. And usually you're going to be citing either the whole book or a chapter or section. Whichever it is applies to, just select that option. Obviously, you enter the author's name. Be careful though, if the person's name has an ED after it, that means that they're the editor. So please change it to the editor if that's the case. Usually you won't have a book with a compiler or translator. If it says COMP, that means compiler. If it says TRANS, that's a translator, and you would change it accordingly. Then you're going to put the title of the book here, if it's a volume and edition, publisher, where it was published, city, if it's multiple cities, it's the one closest to us, and then the year of publication. Be careful that you choose the date closest to us because sometimes editions have multiple dates. And then your database will actually be Gale ebooks, I believe it's called, or it's American History, Gale, something in that regards, and it's usually down at the bottom, so you'd enter that. The date accessed, if it's today, you would put that in. And once again, Gale eBooks should give you a URL that you will input, and you do need to once again change it to yes. And once you've entered all that information, you then click Create Citation, and it will take you back to your bibliography. So that's how you do books. To go back, another source that you may use are journals. In EBSCO, there are some journal articles. To do a manual cite of a journal, once again, you need to make sure you have online database selected and not in print. You put the article title, its author name. The journal title is usually the italicized title after the title name, volume and issue number, year published. It should give you a range of pages, so make sure you put that in. The database, if you do get journals, it will be from EBSCO, and that should be what you put in. And then today's date would be your date accessed. Once again, enter the URL, change to yes, and create citation. Okay. I know I'm going through this rather quickly, but my idea is that you've used Easybib, so this should just be a refresher. And finally, the only other one that I would think you might use, unless there's a discrepancy, come see me, are two. You may use online video if you decide to use a YouTube clip, but you have to make sure it's reliable. Or you may use what is an encyclopedia if you use Encyclopedia Britannica. So just bear that in mind. If you create a PowerPoint, you need to make sure you cite all your pictures. And in that case, you would select digital image and it will walk you through. So the last one I'm going to show you, though, is the encyclopedia. And once again, because it's Britannica, you would select online database, change this to publish directly online. The article title is at the top. If you're looking for the author, it's usually found at the very end of the article. If there's no author, you leave this blank. The site would be Encyclopedia, it's Britannica School, and then the publisher would be Encyclopedia Britannica. They should provide you a URL. They should provide you a date, and then date access, you just click today. And once again, create citation, and it will bring you back to your bibliography list. Okay, so those are some examples of what you may use for your research, and this is a really important part of your Comp 2 grade. But what I want to show you, the last thing is, once you've generated all your bibliography, as long as you're signed in, it saves everything. I do not want you to print off a bibliography for me. Instead, I want you to choose this option called Share. And what you're going to do is you click Share, you go to Invite Others, you would type in my email, which is abarksdale@sau73.org. You would click Edit, and that also gives me view rights, and then you would click the share button. Now to share, it's going to share with myself, so it's kind of silly, but it's going to say I can't share this with myself. But if I entered in, a different name and I click share, it will then show down here, it will show the name, it will show that I have view and edit rights, and it will give me, a function that says shared. If it says error, that means you probably have spelled the person's name wrong, meaning my name, and you probably need to go back and fix it. Once you've done this, I now have your bibliography. You don't need to print a copy off unless you decide to do an essay. If the product that you decide to develop is an essay, you then need to print off a bibliography and attach it as your works cited page, because you do need that as part of your process. Okay, so that's my Easybib tutorial. I hope it helps. And as always, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. Have a good day.